Hello everyone. Today we're taking a relaxing walk through Braga, one of Portugal's oldest and most fascinating cities. From elegant squares and historic churches to peaceful gardens and centuries-old streets, we'll discover the highlights of this remarkable destination. Along the way, we'll see iconic landmarks and discover why Braga is often called the religious capital of Portugal. So, let's start exploring and see what makes Braga such a unique place to visit. This historic city lies about 55 kilometers northeast of Porto, in the heart of northern Portugal. Known as the oldest city in Portugal, Braga has a history spanning more than 2,000 years. Founded by the Romans as Bracara Augusta, it later became one of the most important religious centers on the Iberian Peninsula. Over the centuries, magnificent churches, grand palaces, and beautiful public squares have shaped the city's distinctive character. Today, Braga combines its rich historical heritage with a vibrant atmosphere, welcoming visitors with impressive architecture, charming streets, lively cafes, and beautiful green spaces. Now let's take a look at the places we'll be visiting today, and then explore Braga together. We're now entering Bom Jesus do Monte, one of Portugal's most important pilgrimage sites, located in the northern city of Braga. This remarkable sanctuary, inscribed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 2019, welcomes millions of visitors from around the world every year. Most people know it for its magnificent Baroque staircase, but Bom Jesus offers so much more. Its rich history, impressive architecture, beautiful gardens, and deep spiritual significance make it one of Portugal's most extraordinary landmarks. Today, we'll explore this unique place step by step. Our first stop is the grotto area. Although they may look natural at first glance, these are actually artificial caves built by human hands. During the 18th and 19th centuries, creating grottos like these in the gardens of grand estates was a popular trend across Europe. Their purpose was to provide visitors with a quiet and peaceful place where they could experience the beauty of nature. With its stone passageways, narrow corridors, and rugged rock formations, it truly feels as if you're walking through a natural cave. Even today, this remains one of the most popular and fascinating areas for visitors. We've now reached the viewpoint. From here we can enjoy a breathtaking panoramic view of the city of Braga. On a clear day, it's even possible to see the distant hills stretching for miles. That's why almost everyone who visits Bom Jesus stops here to admire the spectacular scenery. We're going to take a few moments to enjoy this beautiful view before continuing our journey. We're now exploring the lush green gardens of Bom Jesus. As you can see, everything has been carefully designed with perfect symmetry. The layout of the trees, the walking paths, the flower beds, and the small resting areas are all part of a thoughtfully planned landscape design. Bom Jesus is not only an important religious site but also considered one of Portugal's most beautiful historic gardens. During spring and summer, the gardens come alive with colorful flowers, creating an even more breathtaking atmosphere. We've now arrived at the central square of the Bom Jesus complex. The first thing you'll notice is how spacious and perfectly symmetrical the square is. For centuries, this open space has welcomed thousands of pilgrims and worshippers during religious ceremonies and pilgrimage events. Directly in front of us stands the magnificent Bom Jesus Church, rising majestically above the square. The small buildings you see around the church and that we'll continue to see along the way may look like ordinary houses at first glance, but they are actually chapels. Inside each chapel is a scene depicting one of the final moments of Jesus' life. The life-sized wooden sculptures make visitors feel as though they are witnessing these events firsthand. These chapels are considered one of the most spiritually significant parts of the Bom Jesus sanctuary. We're now exploring the Bom Jesus Church. The church we see today was completed in the late 18th century and is considered one of the finest examples of neoclassical architecture in Portugal. Although its exterior is relatively simple, the moment you step inside, you'll be greeted by soaring ceilings, elegant columns, and beautiful gilded decorations. The highlight of the main altar is the impressive sculptural composition depicting the crucifixion of Jesus. To this day, the church remains an active place of worship. The statues here were not created simply for decoration. Most of them represent saints and important figures in Christian history. The objects they hold, their clothing, and even their posture are filled with symbols that reveal who they are. The sculptors of the time paid attention to every detail, right down to their facial expressions. That's why every statue has its own story to tell when you stop and take a closer look. Let's explore this beautiful square together, discovering its impressive statues and beautifully maintained gardens. We're now beginning our descent down the world-famous staircase of Bom Jesus. Interestingly, most visitors make the journey in the opposite direction, climbing from the bottom to the top as part of the traditional pilgrimage route. We're doing the exact opposite. giving us the chance to admire this magnificent staircase and its breathtaking views from a completely different perspective as we make our way down. The fountains you see along the staircase carry a deep symbolic meaning. They represent the 5 human senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. According to Christian tradition, a person must first learn to use their senses wisely before reaching spiritual maturity. A little further down, we come across 3 more fountains. These represent the 3 theological virtues: faith, hope, and charity. In Christianity, these 3 virtues are considered the foundation of a righteous life. In fact, every section of the staircase is part of a symbolic spiritual journey. The construction of Bom Jesus took nearly 3 centuries to reach the form we see today. The first place of worship was established here in the 14th century. Over the following centuries, new sections were added, gradually creating the magnificent sanctuary complex we see today. So, as we walk through Bom Jesus, we're also walking through hundreds of years of history. If you arrive at Bom Jesus from the lower entrance, you can ride one of the world's oldest water-powered funiculars still in operation. Opened in 1882, this remarkable system operates without using electricity. The weight of the descending car pulls the other car uphill, using nothing but the force of gravity and water. The fact that it has been running on the same principle for nearly 140 years is truly remarkable. And that brings us to the end of our visit to Bom Jesus. Calling this place just a church would hardly do it justice. With its rich history, remarkable architecture, beautiful works of art, peaceful gardens, and breathtaking views, it is truly one of Portugal's most extraordinary landmarks. If you ever find yourself in Braga, we highly recommend adding Bom Jesus to your travel itinerary. We're now heading to Jardim de Santa Bárbara, one of the most beautiful spots in Braga. As we approach the park, the first thing that catches our attention is this impressive fountain. At its center stands a dragon sculpture, while Braga's historic buildings rise beautifully in the background. At first glance, it may look like just a small city park, but it's actually one of Braga's most important green spaces. The garden is named after Saint Barbara, who is regarded in Christian tradition as the patron saint of miners and firefighters. With its colorful flower beds, carefully maintained throughout the year, geometric design, and lush green lawns, this is one of the favorite places for both locals and visitors to relax. The medieval stone walls you see beside the garden were once part of the defensive structures of the Archbishop's Palace of Braga. The combination of these historic walls and the vibrant gardens creates a truly stunning setting. Especially during spring and summer, when the flowers are in full bloom, Jardim de Santa Bárbara becomes one of the most photogenic places in Braga. Now let's continue exploring the garden while enjoying its peaceful atmosphere. We're now leaving Jardim de Santa Bárbara and heading toward Largo Carlos Amarante. Along the way, on our left, we pass Igreja dos Terceiros. Although the magnificent Baroque church we see today was completed in the 18th century, its origins date back nearly 500 years and are closely linked to the Third Order of St. Francis. After a short walk, we arrived at Largo Carlos Amarante. The first thing that catches our eye is the large Braga sign, one of the city's most popular photo spots. Almost everyone who visits stops here to take a souvenir picture. Rising just behind it is the magnificent Congregados Basilica, whose grand Baroque facade and twin bell towers make it the most striking landmark in the square. The historic buildings, cafes, and spacious pedestrian areas surrounding the square create a lively yet relaxing atmosphere. Another important landmark overlooking the square is Santa Cruz Church. Built in the 17th century, it is especially famous for its richly decorated Baroque facade. Let's continue exploring the historic streets of Braga. We're now standing in front of Palácio do Raio, one of Braga's most remarkable historic landmarks. Built in the 1750s for a wealthy merchant, this palace is considered one of the finest examples of Baroque architecture in Portugal. What truly sets it apart is its magnificent facade, decorated with distinctive bluish granite stone. As the sunlight changes throughout the day, the stone appears to shift in color, giving the building a unique and elegant appearance. In later years, the palace also served as a hospital. Today, it welcomes visitors as a museum dedicated to the history and cultural heritage of Braga. We're now at Nossa Senhora do Sameiro, one of the most important religious sites not only in Braga, but in all of Portugal. In fact, it is officially recognized as Portugal's second most important Marian pilgrimage destination after Fatima. We arrived at Sameiro early in the morning when a light mist still covered the hill. The square was almost empty, and the basilica slowly emerged through the fog, creating a peaceful and unforgettable atmosphere. The story of Sameiro began in 1863, when Father Martino Antonio Pereira da Silva of Braga envisioned the creation of a great sanctuary dedicated to the Virgin Mary. Over the following decades, the magnificent complex we see today gradually took shape. As we walk toward the sanctuary, the first things that catch our attention are the four large statues. These represent Saint Bernard, Saint Cyril, Saint Anthony, and Saint Alphonsus Liguori. These saints are among the most influential Christian theologians who promoted devotion to the Virgin Mary. Symbolically, every visitor arriving at Sameiro is welcomed by these four important figures. After passing the statues, we arrive at the small chapel. This is one of the oldest parts of the sanctuary, even older than the basilica itself. Rather than being grand and elaborate, it features a simple architectural style. Yet it is precisely this simplicity that gives the chapel its peaceful and contemplative atmosphere. The surrounding gardens are beautifully maintained, adding to the sense of tranquility. Just in front of the chapel is a small fountain. At its center stands a statue of an elderly pilgrim kneeling in prayer. The sculpture was created to symbolize the prayers of the millions of pilgrims who have visited Sameiro over the centuries. It represents faith, patience, and devotion. Leaving the chapel behind, we make our way to the panoramic viewpoint. At an elevation of approximately 570 meters, Braga stretches out below us. On clear days, it's possible to see mountain ranges many kilometers away. When we visited, the morning fog had not yet completely disappeared, giving the landscape a unique and magical beauty. Now it's time to step inside the basilica. Built in the neoclassical style, the basilica appears quite simple from the outside, but inside it reveals elegant architectural details. The statue of the Virgin Mary on the main altar was created by the renowned Italian sculptor Eugenio Macchinani in Rome. With its impressive dome, beautiful marble craftsmanship, and golden decorations, the basilica is considered one of Portugal's finest religious buildings. After leaving the basilica, we come across 4 striking modern angel statues. They represent Saint Michael the Archangel, Saint Gabriel the Archangel, Saint Raphael the Archangel, and the guardian angel of Portugal. Together they symbolize the divine protection between the Virgin Mary and humanity. When people think of pilgrimages in Portugal, Fatima is usually the first place that comes to mind. However, many people don't realize that Sameiro is officially recognized as Portugal's second most important Marian pilgrimage sanctuary. While Bom Jesus do Monte is also a major pilgrimage destination, it is best known for its monumental staircase, which many pilgrims climb on their knees. Sameiro, on the other hand, is especially famous for its national Marian pilgrimages and religious celebrations dedicated to the Virgin Mary. Sameiro is much more than just a church. It is a unique place where history, art, architecture, and religious symbolism come together. If you ever visit Braga, we highly recommend coming here early in the morning, exploring the sanctuary before the crowds arrive, and enjoying the breathtaking views over Braga is truly an unforgettable experience. We're now passing through this symbolic red gate and entering Avenida da Liberdade. This is one of Braga's busiest and most elegant avenues. With its wide pedestrian walkways, tree-lined and flower-filled central promenade, and historic buildings on both sides, it gives the city a truly refined appearance. As we stroll along the avenue, we can admire architecture from different periods. Traditional Portuguese buildings, elegant balconies, ornate facades, and historic shops reflect Braga's rich past, while modern cafes and boutique stores bring a lively energy to the street. A little further ahead, we come to Teatro Circo, opened in 1915. This historic theatre is considered one of the finest performance venues in Portugal, with its elegant facade and beautifully preserved interior. It is admired not only for its architecture, but also for the concerts, theatre performances, and cultural events it hosts throughout the year, making it a centerpiece of Braga's cultural life. As we continue our walk, Praça da República, or Republic Square, gradually comes into view. This square is considered the heart of Braga's social life. The elegant fountain at its center, together with its beautifully landscaped gardens filled with colorful flowers, creates a bright, welcoming, and relaxing atmosphere. We're now at Praça da República, Braga's most vibrant gathering place. For centuries, this square has been considered the heart of the city's social life. Surrounded by historic cafes, restaurants, and shops, it remains lively throughout the day. The elegant fountain at its center, along with beautifully landscaped gardens filled with colorful flowers, creates a peaceful and welcoming atmosphere. Right on the edge of the square stands the small Lapa church Igreja da Lapa. Built in the 18th century, the church is known for its simple yet elegant Baroque facade. It becomes one of the focal points of the square during the religious celebrations and festivals held throughout the summer. Despite its modest size, it is considered an important part of Braga's historical and religious heritage. We're now making our way toward the center of the square. As we walk, you can really feel how lively Praça da República is. The cafes filled with people, street musicians, and historic buildings all give the square its own unique atmosphere. At the center of the square stands this modern granite obelisk, one of the most distinctive landmarks of Praça da República. With its triangular shape and minimalist design, it adds a contemporary touch to the historic surroundings and has become a popular meeting point for both locals and visitors. We're now stepping inside Basílica dos Congregados, one of Braga's most iconic churches. Although construction began in the early 18th century, the basilica was only completed in the 20th century. Its magnificent Baroque and Rococo facade, crowned by statues of St. Philip Neri and St. Martin of Doom, makes it one of the city's architectural masterpieces. Inside, you'll find elegant altars, beautifully crafted stonework, and one of the finest Rococo interiors in Braga, reflecting the city's rich religious and artistic heritage. Now let's take a closer look inside this remarkable basilica. We're now making our way to the back of Praça da República. Here we come across Café Brasileira, one of Braga's oldest and most iconic cafes. For many years, it has been a favorite meeting place for both locals and visitors. With its outdoor seating, it's the perfect spot to relax and soak up the lively atmosphere of the square. Just a few steps ahead stands Torre de Menegem, one of Braga's most recognizable landmarks. Built in the 14th century, this tower is one of the best preserved sections of the city's medieval walls. Having played an important role in Braga's defense for centuries, it now stands as one of the city's most treasured historic monuments. Right beside the tower is Igreja dos Terceiros, which we admire from the outside. Although the church we see today was completed in the 18th century, its origins date back nearly 500 years. Now let's continue exploring the historic streets of Braga while enjoying the city's unique atmosphere. We're now standing in front of the old seminary in the heart of Braga's historic center. Originally established as a college in the 16th century, this building played a vital role in the city's religious education for many years. Even without stepping inside, the building reflects Braga's centuries-old religious and cultural significance. And now we've arrived at Largo de São Paulo, the square opening up right in front of us. On one side stands the statue of Saint Fray Bartolomeu dos Martires, while on the other is the former Jesuit college church. Directly ahead rises the Torre de Santiago, which also houses a small shrine dedicated to the Virgin Mary. And be sure to look down at the lines embedded in the pavement. They trace the outlines of Roman houses that once stood here. Our route now brings us to the heart of Braga, to one of the most important landmarks in Portuguese history, Braga Cathedral. At first glance, it may look rather simple, but it is considered the oldest cathedral still standing in Portugal. Construction began in the 11th century, even before Portugal became an independent kingdom. There's actually a very popular Portuguese expression, older than Braga Cathedral. It's used to describe someone or something that is incredibly old. That saying alone shows just how important this cathedral is to the country's history. You won't notice just one architectural style on its exterior, because the cathedral was expanded and modified over many centuries. As a result, you can see a fascinating blend of Romanesque, Gothic, Manueline, and Baroque architecture, all within the same building. Even though we're not going inside today, simply standing here and admiring its exterior is an impressive experience. We're now standing in front of Arco da Porta Nova, one of Braga's most iconic landmarks. It was originally built in 1512 as a new entrance to the city. The elegant Baroque appearance we see today was designed in 1772 by the renowned architect André Serres. Here's an interesting detail. Despite its name meaning New Gate Arch, there was never an actual gate here. Instead, the arch served as a symbolic entrance, representing the transition between Braga's medieval walled city and its growing, more modern identity. And with that, we've come to the end of our journey through Braga. We've walked its historic streets, spent time in its beautiful squares, and shared the city just as we experienced it. We created this video to be a truly helpful guide for anyone planning to visit Braga. If you enjoyed it and would like to see more of our upcoming travel videos, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next destination.